Hey, it's a casual obsession bonus episode. It's a bonus of an episode.
Even more
with
casual
all
than
bonus.
usual.
Yeah.
Even more casual. Some are saying it's the most casual anything's ever been. More casual than people have ever even heard of.
Are people saying that?
I got it right here.
Well,
Can't argue with that.
yeah.
So we went to Eerie Horror Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I had a blast at Eerie Horror Fest this year. I have not attended the entire event before, so this was a first for me.
Mm-hmm.
Plan on it being the first of many. I'm going to ask off all the days next year that I need to in as much advance as possible because I had a very good time, but I'm not the only one who was there.
No.
Noah, bonus host of the podcast. Other people were here too.
Yeah, I also went to some of Eerie Horror Fest, not all of it, because I had various conflicts. And I'm Nina, also host of this podcast. My pronouns are they, them, just in case you were wondering.
So
at
we
all.
are still doing the pronoun thing.
I want to make sure. I would hope so.
I wasn't going to. I introduced myself as bonus host of the podcast. I was really hoping to start
bonus
a trend.
posts don't get pronouns. We all know
No
this.
pronouns.
If people are listening to the bonus episode, they should know who we are.
I don't know
it's
about
a
that.
I'm Noah,
bonus
he-
episode,
It's a-
not a pronus episode. No, that's not.
Thank
No,
you. That's it.
Also, Eerie Horror Fest is a pretty interesting event, so I feel like maybe people might find this without necessarily
It's possible.
listening to the rest of the podcast. So
That
if
is
you are
entirely
joining
possible.
us just for this,
Hi.
wild. Also, hello. Who else is here? We have one more person who has to introduce them.
I am the final bonus host of the bonus podcast. I'm Jade, they, she. I was there for even less of the event than Nina was, I think.
I think
I
it
don't
was
think
about
that's
even.
true. I think it's
We were about even, just like not overlapping all that much, maybe. Yeah, I
Yep.
was.
I think we
double-booked
overlapped.
also, but
We overlapped for a total of like 5 minutes, I think.
well,
Of,
and
like-
the entirety of the panel that you did.
Oh, true.
I was
yeah.
there for that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm a
that's true. I forgot
supportive
about that
friend.
because I was completely
Focused.
zoned out. Yeah, I was focused. That's the word. But yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, Eerie Horror Fest is previously I think it was a 3-day long event. This year it was only 2.
Yep.
Because they're under new organization. I think the new organization did great.
Mhm.
They have vendors who have cool horror based products. We had coffee and art and some like taxidermy shit this year. They have demonstrations of special effects stuff. They have some panels, which is what I was there for because I was on one. And then they have a lot of screenings of short films and horror movies. So that's going to be the bulk of what we talk about because Noah caught all of them.
No, I caught almost all of them.
Almost all of them. But Noah got very sleepy because
Because I caught all of them on the first day.
by the end of Tales from the Hood, I think we were like, well, do you want to stay for more? And he was about to fall asleep in his chair. So
Makes sense. It's a lot. It's a big day.
Thumbs up. I think if I were to go back, I would. I think that this is the kind of event that I could allow myself like a Red Bull for, because it's just a difficult day to make it through. Because all you're doing is sitting in a dark room for 12 straight hours, essentially. I had a blast with it. Had a really good time on the second day. The first day, there was this guy who wouldn't shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
Oh?
Drunk ass McGee and his 2 friends, drunk ass McGee's 2 and 3, so fucking loud. Laughed their way through the Killer Clowns screening.
Well, that's
But-
appropriate. To be
Which
fair.
is good, except that every time one of the clowns hit the screen, he's like, "Kill that motherfucker! You gotta fucking kill that guy!"
Meanwhile,
Oh,
simultaneously,
fuck, dude.
I was doing exactly the same thing in a screening of Joker Folie à Deux.
Joker Felice do?
Joker
Joker
Felice
Felice à Deux?
yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there for that. I
Just
don't think I could have
sitting
taken
in
it.
Joker, nudging the people next to you, and be like, "This guy's not funny at all.
This clown is terrible. He's not even wearing his
We need
makeup.
to kill this guy."
What in the world? I think we're gonna have to kill this guy.
But yeah, I don't know. How do we want to approach this bad boy?
Let's do it chronologically by time of
Chronological.
day.
That's Nina. Nina opens up. Yeah, get fucked, nerd. You
Yeah,
put
no,
yourself
I knew
first.
that. So, yeah, I did actually plan this. So, people who are hosts of the podcast and maybe people who have heard me talk about this event before may know that like last year I was like, I think we're getting to the point where Casual Obsession,
The horror movie
the
podcast,
horror
where we
movie
talk about horror
podcast, where we
movies.
talk about horror
Oh,
movies,
oh.
could, or at least some of the hosts could have like an in to this event, because we're getting fairly serious with it, and I have put out a horror book at this point, but I wasn't really expecting it to happen as quickly as it did. I met a horror author who is also local. His name is Paul Jessup. I met him at a local author event, and we hit it off right away. We liked all of the same movies. We talked about which movies we hadn't seen yet that we were looking forward to this year, mostly Longlegs. He was doing an analog, like one of the horror things like Blair Witch and Longlegs both did, where he had a website for his upcoming book, which is now out. It's called Daughter of the Wormwood Star. It came out last week. So we became pretty fast friends because it was clear that we shared a lot of the same feelings about horror movies and literature in general. And then we talked and we exchanged contact info, and he emailed me and was like, I'm doing a panel at Eerie Horror Fest about being a horror author. Do you want to be on it? And I was like, that's it. We're in.
That's how that happened.
And my thought was, yeah, it really is just that simple. And what I thought at the time was, okay, that's cool. It's going to be chill because Horror Fest is mostly movie enthusiasts, was my thought. And I was like, it'll be us, and we had 2 other authors come in from New York, whose names I am blanking on. Rebecca Cuthbert and Pauline Chow, I believe are their names.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. And they were great too. They came in, and we were thinking, okay, so it's going to be the authors and their spouses, and we're going to talk about what it's like to write books, and they're going to record us, so we'll have that for our posterity, but that's going to be it. No one is going to come. And then we got there, and Paul and I were gossiping on a live mic about, I don't even remember what. And all our spouses were there, and we're like, this is it. And then slowly more and more people started to file in. And I started to get nervous. I'm not really someone who now, since I've been doing podcasts and events for a few years now, I'm not someone who gets nervous about public speaking as much anymore. But I started to get shaky. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, it's always when I take things too casually that they end up being big. So it ended up being really good, though. I'm hoping that we will get the footage of it so that I can share some of that. But it was full, completely full. People started filtering out about it was an hour long, and about half an hour in, people started leaving to go to the screenings of the short films, which started about halfway through. So no harm, no foul from those guys. I learned later that the director of Tales from the Hood, Rusty Cundiff, was either there for part of the time or had really wanted to be there, which is incredibly nerve-wracking. But my friend Paul did actually touch base with him, and they exchanged contact information. So I'm like,
nice.
I'm like 1 degree of separation away from that, which is scary. But yeah, no, it was really good. People asked questions about AI, and then as I was leaving the panel to rush home for my Dungeons and Dragons game, I got hailed by one of the, I think a staff member, who told me I was fucking brilliant. And he also told me I was very well spoken. And so I'll take it.
You were well spoken when you said fuck AI, and if you use AI, you fucking suck.
He said that's what I could have said because I'm young and young people are like that. But actually, I was very level-headed, and I was. The question had been something to do with AI. It was along the lines of why do you prefer working with human artists over AI? And everyone else basically was like, oh, I go out of my way to make sure that I'm working with a human artist because there's just a back and forth that you don't find with AI, where you can really have this meeting of the minds on
which is also true. AI cannot accept alterations. It's a whole new thing every time.
That was my...
Because it's not
because
alive.
yeah, that was my point that I made initially, was like, just on a technical level, AI doesn't generate different layers. It generates just a whole image. So if you want to adjust anything, you have to adjust everything. You can't easily go in and be like, I want this character to be bigger, and so you upscale the one character and do some touch ups. You have to like adjust everything. So that was my initial point, and then everyone else said what they had to say. And then as we moved away from it, I was like, listen, I do want to say one more thing, which is that if we're creatives and we're spending all of our time creating something that could easily be replaced by AI, then who are we to pick another part of the creative process and decide that it's okay to replace that? And that was my whole point, was like, we need to all stick together on this. We can't pick and choose what part of the creative process is okay to replace. And I still hold by that, so I'm glad it resonated with people. But that was most of the panel for me. It was an hour long. I've been asked back next year. Woohoo! And with that,
Nice.
I have, yes, very happy about that. You love to be
A pleasure to have in
needed.
class.
Or wanted, I suppose. A pleasure to have in class. I got a good grade in Horror Fest. So yeah, and I have a badge that says industry on it now, which is very cool. And also, I couldn't stop looking at it all weekend. I just kept going back over and being like, wow. I was at work on the next day, and I kept going over and being like, wow, it says industry on it. But yeah, very
cool.
good time. And like I said, screenings of the shorts started about halfway through that, so I'll throw it over to Noah for that.
I left in the middle of my wife's panel because I don't care. Yeah, that's right, everyone. I'm brave. I'm gonna say it. Fuck Nina's hobby. No, I take that back. That's mean. That's mean.
Good. You
Anyway.
should take it back.
I attended every film screening with the exception of the full-length actual films on day one. I did not watch My Life with the Living Dead or Adjust Your Tracking, which, from what I understand, were both pretty cool. But I came in the middle of My Life with the Living Dead, which is about some of the team that made like all the classic zombie flicks, from what I could tell. And I immediately realized, let's see, a documentary based on the career of John A. Russo, the man who created flesh-eating zombies and co-wrote the 68 Night of the Living Dead. I came in about 20 minutes into it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to lock into this. I'm not going to try. And I also wasn't going to be able to make the next one because that was during Nina's panel. So, you know, you move on, you do other things. Oh, well. But I did catch all the shorts.
Nice.
I don't know that I want to commit to talking about all the shorts. I think that's a huge...
It's a lot.
It feels like time wasting, so I'm going to call out some highlights for me.
Yeah.
Lost Boys Pizza was fun. It was a vampire at a Halloween party that is being held at a bar/pizza place with a band, like, live music situation.
Okay.
It was just kind of fun.
That's fun. It's a fun setting.
Here's the thing. The horror comedy block came next. This was the All Hallows Eve block. Everything's supposed to be happening on Halloween. But Lost Boys Pizza and It Came From Inside, in my opinion, were both better suited to a horror comedy block because they were funny and it felt like they were horror comedies. They were also on Halloween, though, but One for the Cemetery was a truly brutal short that was really good. And I think, Jade, you managed to catch that one with me, right?
that was one of the ones that I actually caught on this particular day, yeah. I was there for, I think, like half of it came
One
from
for the
inside.
Cemetery, which I found that to be very funny. It opens up with this dude talking about, he put together like a scrapbook to explain to his girlfriend that it's time for them to have a kid. And but the whole time he is dressed as a pregnant nun. That was his Halloween costume. And then there's aliens and shit like that, extra dimensional beings. Fun short.
It's goofy as hell. Yeah.
Enjoyable.
I laughed. It was good.
Yeah.
It was fun. But then One for the Cemetery.
I did laugh. There's funny parts in One for the Cemetery. There's actually
tell
a very,
if it was
very funny sequence.
To be funny or not, though, is kind of the thing.
I think it was very intentionally being funny.
Okay.
It's about a woman coming home from work on Halloween night, and she finds that the door to her apartment is unlocked. Not only is the door to the apartment unlocked, every door to the building seems to be unlocked and like open.
Mhm.
And she calls the landlord, and it seems like the landlady, or like, yeah, like her landlord had shown the apartment, but she wasn't really sure. And all the doors are open. She's like, I really wish that she would close doors. Why bother having doors if we're just going to leave them open? May as well just take these away. You know, making her like side comments the whole time. It's just a very long, drawn out thing of us thinking, but the doors are all open. Are you sure there's no one here with you? But she checked the apartment, so you know, okay. And as the time goes on, she keeps thinking she hears things, but she doesn't. It's probably just her cat, you know? And then she finds like hospital gown in the basement, and she assumes that this is part of like a costume setup that the landlord has down there, like for decorations, because there's a lot of decorations up at the house.
Mhm.
But to me, the very funny part is she realizes that she has lost all of her knives. She acknowledges someone has come into her apartment and all they did was steal her knives. And there is a 2-minute segment that's just her going about the rest of her night going, knives? Who steals knives? And then she's in the shower and you just hear her going, I mean, really, knives?
They're not even
She's
good
drying her hair.
knives.
And there's subtitle. They're not even, and then there's a subtitle that just says knives with a question mark while she's drying her hair because you can't hear her. She's going on about like, why would anyone do this? They're not good knives. It's really annoying. I guess I'll have to do it, but who steals knives? And then the movie wildly abruptly ends with the guy who has broken into her house very violently killing her and then leaving. I thought that like my one criticism, frankly, is we didn't really need to have another mentally ill, like explicitly mentally ill killer hit the field. I don't think we needed to have any context of who the man in the house is. We didn't need the medical like paraphernalia around, you know. But I liked the short a lot, honestly. I thought it was a really kind of shocking end to two funny horror movies and then rolling right into the horror comedy block. You know? Alex Pollock. I would watch more of his stuff, frankly.
Yeah, I'd give him a shot, certainly. It looked good, consistently.
Yeah, looked good. And the tone was consistent.
Yeah, as mentioned, I had a little bit of a difficult time reading the tone because of reasons and such. Like, I mean, for it to be coming directly after It Came From Inside, where a certain amount of the comedy in that one was from, like, the quality of it. It's a movie that knows what it looks like and everything, right? So they played into it an awful lot.
Yep.
So then when One for the Cemetery hits, I was kind of like, okay, so is this one playing itself with a really straight face, but it intends itself to be a little absurd, or is it playing itself this straight faced because it wants to be taken seriously, or, you know? And now that I'm thinking about it more,
frankly, the answer doesn't really come till the end of it.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm kind of like, well, that was dumb of me to be confused by it, actually. It seems like it's actually kind of clear, but
one of those in reflection, but also legitimately in the moment, coming from two funnier shorts that are being goofy intentionally, rocking right into a short that's just like, it's a little quirky, and then suddenly ends, you know?
Yeah.
Next up, though, was the horror comedy block.
Yeah.
I really liked the horror comedy block, generally. Well, I didn't like Yummo Spot, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought that was kind of, it felt really millennial core.
Ooh, okay.
You know? Oh, were you not here for this one?
Yeah, we are back into things that I missed, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, shoot, you only caught a couple. Yeah, so this was a couple.
I caught very little on the first.
They have like a cabinet full of like canned corn that they're pouring out in front of a deer cam, so they get to watch deer eat every night.
Oh, okay.
And that goes on for like months, and then one night she pours out beans and the deer get mad, and it's a bunch of people in deer suits break into the house and make them eat beans.
Oh, so like sorry, sometimes horror comedy to me is like, you know, there are other types of comedy other than absurdism, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of my like frustration with horror comedy.
This is distinctly the verbiage used in it. Yomo is a word used actively in the thing, talking about something tasting good. That's, to me, made it feel really millennial core.
Yeah.
But also
It
it
is.
is...
Well,
It's
that and
doggo,
the big-
puppo
Yeah.
shit.
Well, that and also like the big punchline of your whole thing being a bunch of people wearing costumes. Like a bunch of people in deer costumes is like so 2010s YouTube horse mask kind of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it.
It was fine, right? Like,
Sure. I bet it was.
it was not for me, though. Was not for me. It was followed by Skate or Die, which opens up with guy in wig, very reminiscent of either your least favorite conservative shithead who's being a woman on YouTube,
Mhm.
or guy who's just on TikTok. You know? It's the two genders. You got a guy who's doing a skit on TikTok who's just like, and I'm in a wig so you can tell I'm a different person. And then you have your Steven Crowders. You know?
Right.
But it's like a group of people who come in, they enter this like abandoned building that's been being used as a skate park, and they're like, and we're gonna tear down this skate park.
No.
And then they start getting killed by a demonic skateboarder,
Good.
which
That's
is
what you get.
it's goofy. This one is actually kind of funny, because it's just kind of funny.
That sounds like fun.
It's got nothing going on.
That
You know,
I mean, of course it does.
I've told you everything that happens except for the part where the guy gets impaled by the wheels of a skateboard.
See, you had me at demonic skateboarder, honestly.
Mhm.
So everything that you've mentioned for the horror comedy block reminds me of something from VHS so far. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, I think it's honestly, I think that is the issue of short films all do kind of feel like shorts, you know?
What gets me
Yeah.
with short films is that a lot of the time this is why I like VHS so much, is because it is like people who currently, with its current iteration, it's horror creators who are good getting to do whatever the fuck they want. A lot of like horror shorts that you see online are like the same kind of general idea, and some of these make it into VHS too, where it's like the same kind of general idea that someone wrote down in their notebook when they were in high school, and then they got to be an adult and were like, wouldn't it be crazy if we did like fucking Resident Evil but with a like giant alien stork? What the fuck would that be like?
And it kind of
I don't know.
rocks, as it turns out.
And it does kind of rock, but a lot of the time it feels like the setup is kind of secondary to all of the fun visual effects we want to do, and we don't actually want to tell, like, because we're bound by it being a short. It feels like we don't end up really wanting to tell like a unique story. We want to tell a story that's been told before, but we want to do our cool special effects over it, and I can't even be that mad about it.
Yeah.
Other highlights from the horror comedy block, or is that it?
Revenge was fine. It was a director going around killing critics of his shit. And it ends with the police going, well, who knows who it is? Award season's coming up, short film season. I guess we'll just see who dies next. It's some of the most classically incompetent police work that you could ask for.
Nice.
But Serial, that was the one that I ended up really liking the most from the horror comedy block. It was a serial killer who goes to dump a body, and then he finds that there's another guy dumping a body at his spot, if you can believe it.
What is this, a crossover episode?
And yeah, I love stuff like that. That it ends with them like sharing a Google Calendar so that they know where they can each dump on what weekends.
That's
with the
incredible.
exception of October, where their weekends switch because you got that my ritual thing. Yeah.
That's actually
good.
great.
That's really funny.
That's so funny.
And then that's when we took a break, right? The costume contest was on. I was really hungry. Got a really banging cheeseburger.
Nice.
Really great. And then, I mean, it was Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I mean,
And I tell you, had a blast. I got to watch it with not friend of the podcast. I don't think they listen to the podcast. I don't see any reason why they would. Friend of me, Rye. Friend of us,
Friend of
Rye.
us.
Right.
Jeez.
Calm down. I'm it's called vamping, all right?
No.
I got to be the one to show Rye Killer Clowns from Outer Space for the first time.
Rye
I
hadn't
didn't realize.
seen Killer
that's
Clowns?
true.
What
Rye,
the
Never
fuck?
seen it.
Rye, I'm gonna say something about Rye that even if they hear this, I don't care. Rye actually hasn't seen a lot of movies that you would consider like classics as far as
Interesting.
horror goes. They also hadn't seen Candyman until this year.
Candyman is
So.
such the exact kind of movie that I would expect Rye to love, though, is the thing. Like, that's...
And they
that
did.
one's
did.
actually
But-
confusing.
Well, they're getting to it now. Anyway, how'd they like Killer Clowns?
They also really liked it.
Good. Only correct opinion.
I got to very much enjoy while listening to the guy saying, "Kill that fucking clown." Way too loud. In a room that had children because the children's costume contest had just ended.
Oh my god.
The shower scene, when there's no nudity in this movie,
Yeah.
but when she's starting to get undressed for the shower scene, we just hear, "I've seen movies like that before." Mhm.
What?
Really loud. I know where this one's going.
Why would you say that out loud in a room full of people, dude? Like that.
Right?
What are you doing?
If it was actually a regular Warner production and not Eerie Horror Fest, that man would have been beaten to death by the ushers.
Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't have even dragged him out of the room first.
No. And everyone around would have politely clapped.
Yeah. They would have paused the movie for a standing ovation.
They would have. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda would have made a speech.
Would he also get beat to death by the ushers?
No.
A second standing
no.
ovation follows.
They probably would like. I love Killer Clowns, though. It was
It's a
great to
good
see it on the
movie.
big screen in
It's
a room
just
full of
fucking
people. I lost my shit at Another Door. At the very first, as soon as he opens the door, he's like, "Oh," and he starts to open it, and I'm laughing already. And Rye gives me this like confused look, and then he's like, "Another door, another door," and I'm dying. And now like Rye's also laughing. No one else in the room is laughing.
Nobody
I am
laughed at
laughing
Another
so
Door?
hard.
That's the funniest
No one
part of the-
else was laughing
That's
at
like
that.
one of the two funniest
I was
parts
expecting
of the
the
movie.
whole room.
What
I
the fuck?
think about that all the time.
Another door.
Character
Another
lead character
door.
Mike Tobacco starts opening a door, and Noah is just like, I've seen movies like this before.
What else did you watch?
Just as an aside, I
Okay.
forgot Joe Lombardo is a character we never see and dies off screen, and we
Uh-huh.
never even see his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that he's just a name.
He is just a name
Great
that
name.
gets said a bunch of times in the movie for no fucking reason.
No, man, Joe Lombardo was in there. I know. It's like, all right. I'm glad you
They
know.
got him.
But hey, the next thing that was up, and this was huge.
Yeah, what's
this was
after
so
that?
exciting.
This
It was
is
the
the event.
world premiere of Vampire Zombies from Space. World premiere. I was
Holy shit.
initially, right? I will not lie. And if the Vampire Zombies from Space guys are listening, I say this with love. We were worried that it was not going to be good because the world premiere was at Eerie Horror Fest. And I'm like,
Sure.
now Eerie Horror Fest has gotten write-ups. They were in the New York Times as a like film festival worth traveling for.
But we're no
Oh, yeah?
Nightmare Weekend Richmond, Virginia, who has John Carpenter. So, like, what are we compared to that?
right? We couldn't even nail down the voice of Megan.
No, yeah, she
2
fucked
years
off.
in a row.
Yeah, this is 2 years in a row that she's
2
ghosted
years in
the
a row,
people.
she's just
So,
not even bothered.
Rude
We
as
got
hell.
Rusty Cundiff. That's
Yeah, we did
big.
get Rusty. Which we'll
Anyway.
get to him later.
Comedically,
But I tell
it
you,
is
Vampire
in
Zombies from
character
Space-
for Megan, but that is something that she would do.
No, guys. She's just so in character that she bailed on her commitments.
Vampire Zombies from Space.
Anyway, Vampire Zombies from Space.
I love this shit so much. I am so sad that neither of you were here for it
I
because
am pretty
it was
disappointed to have
so
missed it.
funny. The
Yeah.
whole thing, firstly, the whole thing plays like a Treehouse of Horror episode.
Hell yeah.
Really great. If you listen to your mother, you'll hear her go, "It just seems like something we would have been making up at Thanksgiving, where it's just, and then this happened, and then this happened." She's just learning about the concept of yes-anding.
Of course.
Don't be mean to your mom.
I'm allowed to be. She's my mom. But
She really
It was-
enjoyed it though.
that like she loved it. There's this really funny bit where Dracula's spaceship looks like a vampire tooth, and his UFO has fangs and wings.
Fantastic.
And then when the fanged vampire UFOs fly in a flapping formation,
That's so goofy. I love that shit.
it's
Yeah. Like Galaga or like
they yeah. And then Dracula's son comes up with a cure for the humans' tea necklaces. The crosses.
Wait,
he's
hold
like,
on a
"This is
second.
great
Wait,
because
these vampires are affected by crucifixes, but they don't know why. That's so fucking
Yeah.
funny. How do they avoid the sun in space?
So they come up with they have a vaccine for the crosses that now when they bite people, it reanimates them as vampire zombies.
Fantastic. Perfect.
Dracula's son is this fucking greaser ass kid who just wants to hang out with humans. He has tooth caps that just give him big, like, buck teeth, like Goofy. He combs his hair to the side instead of straight back when he's in human mode. But, so, like, Rye leaves the auditorium for a second to go get a drink, right? Comes back and is just like, no, you're never going to believe this. I hope this guy's here tomorrow. Because in line in front of me was the most Dracula-looking motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. Like, that man was born to play Dracula. I'm like, that's so funny. Love that. I shit you not, 5 minutes later, the man walks up on stage to help present the film because it's Dracula and the lead actress were both up there to present. We were sitting in the auditorium. We are sitting like 2 rows away from the entire director cast, right? And half of the cast and crew is in front of us, and then the other half is behind us, right? We are in the middle of the entire team that made this movie.
Oh my god.
And Rye slaps me going, Noah, holy shit, that's the Dracula guy. He's playing Dracula. Really great movie, though. I talked to the director about it after, and he's like, it's really funny because people come up to him all the time. And he's like, I know. They're like, do you know, you look just like Dracula. You could play Dracula. I know. Really great. It's all in black and white. It leans into, like, classic film stuff. They got fucking Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma. He plays the town masturbator.
Did they tell him they were
Yep.
making a movie, or?
He's like the biggest, like, he's like the second biggest drama the town has. The first one is that they think that the guy who grows all the tobacco in town murdered his wife, but she was actually kidnapped by Dracula. So, very worth it though. It's currently on its like premiere tour. As soon as this is available, like you see strings carrying bats around. It's really and truly committed to this aesthetic in a way that doesn't come off as try hard. It doesn't come off as mocking. It comes off as appreciation of these low budget like classic horror flicks.
Nice.
I want to follow up on this movie by saying I work at a cafe, obviously. And the second or third customer of my day on Saturday, the second day of Eerie Horror Fest, was one of the crew members for Vampire Zombies from Space. He's wearing the t-shirt for it. And I compliment his shirt, and I'm like, I think my husband saw that one. I did not get to because I, had to work today. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, well, what can I get you? He got a dark roast Chemex, and he went and sat down to work. And then slowly over the course of the day, the rest of the crew also filters in and orders and goes and sits down in the corner. Eventually they all leave, and he's there until like 10 minutes before close, and then he goes straight back to the theater. And he was really nice. At one point, I was putting dishes in the dish bin as he was like putting his second cup of coffee in there, and he comes over to me and he's like, "Why didn't you tell me I had a booger in my nose?" My friends had to point it out to me, and I'm terribly embarrassed. And I was like, "How would I have even gone about telling you
What?
that, sir? That's not a service that I offer."
That's so funny. Also, that was the director.
Yeah.
Nina is underselling by saying a member of the crew.
I don't
This
know
was the
who's who.
director.
It was the director.
Yeah,
This
the
is
guy
one
who I
of the
talked to.
funniest
Yeah.
possible
Who-
anecdotes to have with the director of a movie.
He was great. And I was saying this to y'all's mom, that literally that is possibly the best kind of customer someone could be, is to come in about 10 minutes after open, so I'm not like feeling set upon the moment I open the door. Your friends all come in one at a time and order when they get there instead of waiting until there's a group of 10 and coming up to me all at once. And then leaving about half an hour before close, so not even a question, didn't have to tell them that we were closing or anything. Then the second night after, jumping ahead, I'm sorry. The second night after Tales from the Hood, we're leaving, and we managed to catch him, and we're telling him about how much we like the movie, and then he starts telling Noah how much he likes the coffee I made him. And then we're having this whole conversation, and your mom's gushing about it, and he's like, "Okay, well, it was cool talking to you guys," or whatever, and leaves. And we're headed out, and he comes back in his arms he has t-shirts for us.
Huh?
Yeah, he leaves and like is clearly hustling back to us on our way out with cast shirts.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they're currently selling them on the website. Like, it doesn't say cast on the back, but he's like, "Here's some crew shirts for you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for loving the movie. This is the first feedback we've gotten since we finished 4 years ago because we were working on it for that long."
Holy shit, they made it that long ago?
No
Or
members of the cast have seen any of the movie yet outside of the people editing it and tweaking it and finalizing.
since 2020?
Yep.
Whoa!
He said 4 years. Yep.
I can't imagine making something and then having to sit on it for that long. Holy shit.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
So that was definitely, I think, the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah,
I'm
for
like,
me, easily the
yeah.
highlight.
Jesus.
Really fun. But the side highlight that led into that also was a pretty big highlight for me from the weekend. But we're not done yet. We're not done with the day. Toxic work culture block from day one is still here. There's this one, Semper Avanti. It is a short about 2 soldiers going through the tunnels in Vietnam.
Oh.
And there's monsters in the tunnels. That's the whole
Yeah,
short.
you said there were soldiers
but
making
the
their way
monsters
through.
look-
But
But the monsters looked good. The short was really good. It was very cramped and kind of miserable to watch in that sense. I am wondering if maybe this was like a proof of concept kind of thing. Because if it's a proof of concept, I'm sold. I'll watch more of it. And if it's not, it's a really good short, and I really liked it. This was followed by Dark Mommy, which is,
yeah.
I don't know why it's called that. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh.
But it's it's a 911 operator in a small town, right? He's the night shift guy, and there's this recurring bit where he continues to make a like tea in a Keurig. He's an English guy for like no discernible reason, right?
Yeah, okay.
And I say that not because England doesn't have 911 operators, because
They
they
have
don't. They
999
have like a
operators.
999 operator, okay? So this was in America, and he was 911ing, all right? So get off my case, hypothetical person who has an issue with this. This guy makes 3 or 4 cups of Keurig tea in a row, tastes them, dumps it out, starts over again. It was it was in between taking these 911 calls of a panicked child talking about Dark Mommy being there. The rest of the shorts, whatever. It was pretty solid, right? But like, I really thought the tea continuing line was very funny to me. I liked it a lot. Briefly on Spooky Crew, I would just like to highlight that as one of those. You know how people are doing more of the live stream present in movies kind of thing. Like that's part of the framing of it.
Yeah.
And how that usually has like chat going up the side. This had a great chat. The
Oh.
chat felt like pretty reasonably real, and I had a blast with it. Right down to the guy who came in the middle going, "Hey guys, really happy to be here, getting some dinner. What am I missing?" And then 3 or 4 messages going, "Hey, welcome back," and one guy going, "Shut the fuck up." It's it's funny stuff.
Nice.
I thought that was a really fun time. We had a film from Hong Kong called Umbra.
Cool.
This woman who's like being harassed at work ends up finding this umbrella that the umbrella has a vengeful spirit attached to it, and it helps her kill all the people who are being shitty in her life
Yeah, okay.
and avenge the former owner of the umbrella.
Neat.
It was cool, you know? I think it's unfortunately, it suffered from being a little late at night for me to appreciate it.
Okay.
I will admit to that.
Sure.
But, you know, it is what it is. Dracula Prisoner of Frankenstein, however,
Oh.
that benefited from being really late at night. So, Dracula Prisoner of Frankenstein, that is a film by Jess Franco, aka Jesus Franco, depending on how familiar you are with the guy.
Oh.
The man has made hundreds of films. And one of the things, and this was given with an intro by Will from the Oscar Bait podcast, who was working with Severin Films to sell Blu-rays. This guy loves the 1950s era Hollywood monster movies. This is the era post the big budgets. You take away all the glitz and studio backing, and people were able to do a little bit more of whatever they wanted to do. And it was noticeably worse in a specific way. And this guy really liked it, so he ended up making his own Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein in 1972. When I tell you this movie watches like a movie from like the 50s, I mean it.
Nice. Cool. Potentially.
But you've definitely seen pictures from this movie before. That Dracula picture where he's just like open mouthed staring up that I feel like people use for reaction stuff all the time. That's from this.
I've definitely seen
He's
that.
got like kind of stubby fangs. Yeah. This started at midnight. All right. We get out of here at almost 2 a.m. And the intro that this man gave was, there's very little spoken dialogue in this film, and there's very little concrete elements to the story. It is kind of like, it's kind of best experienced on its own merit, as if you are in a dream. It's very dreamlike. Engage with it that way. Which was a good way to get this set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we know Dracula's there. We know, and he's killed immediately, actually. He's killed very early on.
Oh.
And then Frankenstein buys Dracula's castle and brings him back to life as his servant.
Oh, so he Frankenstein's Dracula.
Yeah.
So Dracula.
And also, don't worry,
so
Frankenstein's monster is there too.
So Dracula is not only prisoner of Frankenstein, he is the Frankenstein's monster of Frankenstein.
Oh, no. Frankenstein's monster is there too.
Well, yeah, but like also Dracula is Frankenstein's like other monster.
There's many monsters to be had here.
The Frankenstein.
There's monsters everywhere. Frankenstein's monster everywhere for those with eyes to see. Also, Dracula's wife is there, but it's never really talked about how Frankenstein missed her being there. And she kills Frankenstein, I think.
Okay.
Also, it's not Victor Frankenstein. It's like, it's a different name, and I can't remember now.
Johnny.
It was kind of funny because it almost makes it seem like it almost made it seem like it was trying to skate around copyright, but it's still big green man with bolts in his neck. It's still Dracula. But then, okay, very little spoken dialogue for the first like 40 minutes of this film, right?
Uh-huh.
And then there is a cabaret like exotic dance section that is 4 minutes long with a full musical number about a guy talking about a girl talking about how hot she is and how when she shows you her ass, it'll take you a week to get over it.
It happens sometimes.
She's so real.
4 minutes. 4 minutes in the middle of this, and then she leaves the dance floor and she goes into her like area, and she's mad because the light bulb doesn't work. And then Frankenstein breaks in. No, I'm confusing. I'm sorry. I'm confusing this with New York Ripper. I apologize. the light bulb thing is from New York Ripper. She
Damn.
goes to her
Oh my
dressing
God.
room though, and then Frankenstein's monster breaks in and kidnaps her and takes her away.
You know, I
so
didn't
that they
think
could
that
turn
you
her
would.
into a Dracula as well.
I knew that you would like Giallo movies once you started actually getting into them, but I didn't know you were gonna get so Giallo brained so quickly.
Thank you. In fairness, it's two very similar scenes. It's just one is
Sure,
distinctly
fair.
more explicit than the other.
Sure, yeah.
So they kidnap this girl, they drag her back to Frankenstein's Dracula's castle, and
Right.
they turn her into a vampire as well. And Dracula's bride is still kind of going around. There's like a woman that I don't know why she's important. She's just kind of there for a long section of this movie, and then she dies.
Oh,
And then the Wolfman shows up
sure.
out of nowhere.
He's friends with
Wolfman from the
Dracula.
fucking top rope. And then he disappears. And I just assume he must have died.
Well, no, he probably
But
just
I
left.
don't know where he went.
He
It
was
was
done.
great though.
He went home.
And by great, I mean it was a whole ass experience. I'm like,
Nice.
I'm drifting in and out, focusing on this movie. I'm like, I know I might have missed some things, but I did not miss the Wolfman dying. That guy just disappeared. What happened? Had a good time. And now we're on to the October 5th, Saturday.
Day 2. This is the one that I was there for a little bit more of.
And I'm going to
The
open
one
this
I
up.
was there for pretty much none of until the end of the day.
It's true.
Hmm.
I'm going to take this as my opportunity to do my one negative review of the entire thing. Right. The opening block after Nightmare Before Christmas was the animation block. And I am really annoyed because a walk in the park was fun. I
Mhm.
like to walk in the park. It looked like a guy made a short film in Blender. And it was nice. I liked it. Noonday Demon, I've looked into the director and the animator, writer, director, animator. Because I watched it and I'm like, this is kind of neat. It's a neat little animation style, if a little basic. But then there's a moment where like the guy's cuff turns into his forearm, turns into his shirt cuff again. I'm like, oh, this is a filter. Or it's just a guy who made a mistake while animating. Could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pours a glass of liquid and it pours like liquid. And it's either the guy put an animation filter over what he made, or he painstakingly animated a guy pouring a glass of whiskey to the point that it takes you out of the film. It's so detailed. And I have, in looking into this guy, I'm pretty sure it's just like an AI animation filter that he put over his footage, which is a bummer because the story is kind of fun. Now, that being said, he was at Eerie Horror Fest. So when I was telling you about it after the animation block finished, or after whenever I got up to you, right?
Yeah.
I said that the movie sucked ass.
Yeah, you told me it
And then
was
as
very
I
bad.
started to explain, there was a guy who whipped his head around and looked at me. I don't think it was the guy, but it might have. If it wasn't the guy, he was with that guy.
Oh my god.
So that's oops. Yeah, what really sucks is this guy does animate, he does illustrate, he has a very distinct style, which is not what this short was. And it looks good. It's interesting. It's neat. And then there's this thing which looks like a guy put like a Snapchat filter over everything. What most likely it is like a rigged like model set, and then everything else was like programmed around it, but it still doesn't look, it's
Sure.
not good.
Yeah.
And it bums me out to see people praising the animation when it's just not animated. And when the guy's other animation is legitimately good.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's just kind of like, well, why is
But
this
whatever.
one getting made the way that it is? What's the deal with this?
Yeah. Walk in the Park was fun though. To bring it back to happy things, Walk in the Park was animated, and it's just a story about a guy walking with his dog in the park, and then the whole city gets destroyed.
Oh no. I hate when that
And
happens.
then it turns out it's some kids who are just playing around in a high rise and destroying cities for fun because they're bored, and they use it as a seasoning in their drinks. They like destroy city models, grind them up, and season things with it.
Huh?
It's a real like, yeah, no, it's there's a lot of fun going on. It's
Is
a
this
real
like a
kind of
Tool
Eldritch
video or
situation.
something?
Very
That's cool.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's cool. I definitely recommend checking out Walk in the Park by J.
J.
Marks. I had no spoken language in it at all.
Cool.
Just a cool little thing.
A
I
fun
liked it.
choice for animated pieces specifically, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Saves you time on lip syncing.
True.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like also though,
Um,
there's this kind of like I don't know, anachronistic I don't know, no set place, no set time period. This doesn't take place in the same world that we live in, kind of feeling that you only get from an animated project that has no dialogue in it. You know, like you
yeah.
can make anything with
That
no
is true.
dialogue to give it a certain kind of feel, but it really works good with animated
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree. Home infestation block. I'm going to skip through this real quick.
Sure.
An Argentina film,
Ooh.
an Argentinian film. Scared is what it's credited as here. I found it on Letterboxd by its actual like Spanish name,
Mhm.
which I cannot remember off the top of my head right now. Released in 2024 by Adrian Alejo Cernandez. Cernadas. Cernadas. This was fun. I liked. I can find it again. Asustada.
Asustada.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
By Adrian Cernadas. Yeah. I thought this was fun. This currently on Letterboxd has 2 ratings, a 5-star and my 4-star. But I think it's really great. It's short, it's punchy, and it just plays on like childhood fear of like something under the bed kind of thing.
Nice.
Because that's the home infestation block. The home infestation block is all haunted house shit,
Oh, okay.
generally speaking.
Sure.
Remnants was this kid or this man, he's a guy, he's an adult. His father has dementia, and his father is convinced his wife is still in the house. And he's like, she died, Dad. I'm sorry. And he takes him to a home at the end of it, right? But it turns out his mom is still in the house. She's just a ghost. But
it's been
like the guy keeps saying, your mom's not gonna like if I leave. It's good. I think that this was one of those like a little close to home for me at the moment for me to enjoy it at all.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Frog, Phrog. That was one about a guy living in a basement.
Sure.
Okay. He's living in this lady's basement. She's like calling her brother like, "Why did you drink all my chocolate milk, you asshole?" And he's like, "I didn't." But then she hears something fall down. She goes down. She finds the guy. Solid.
Neat.
Not bad. I want to talk about the shit that you were here for, though.
Sure. Okay, so
The Watcher, Evania, and Passengers.
Do you have anything to say about Mansion House before we start on Watcher?
Mansion House was fun. It was... I don't know. It's people who went on the dark web to find a real haunted house for the girl's birthday. They go in together and they're like, hey, this is actually really fucking scary. Let's get the fuck out. And it turns out the house is actually set up by the guy renting it out for like thousands of dollars for the haunt experience. It's actually fake, but it's actually real. It's fun.
Okay.
Cool little concept. I enjoyed it.
I want to say I caught like the last.
But I want to talk about the ones you were here for.
Yeah. So the Watcher and the Children of Enoch.
You saw them break out. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I really enjoyed the Watcher and the Children of Enoch. This is a short that is about like the one member of this cult whose job it was to watch over the rest of them after they all like died, to take care of them, waiting for them to resurrect or some shit. It's not really given in a whole lot of explicit terms. You just listen to this tape of the guy preaching while you see a montage of this woman going about doing her daily, tasks and jobs and stuff, and then realizing that they're all dead and they're not going to wake up, and like the grief and despair of that, but then the freedom of being out from under them now. Like, I thought it was really well shown. I definitely had to sit on it for a little while for it to really fully like hit for me, but I really liked it. It's really good.
I think also that's one of the issues with watching, like, people talk about, like, reviewers who go to film fests talk about this all the time. It's usually coupled in with the, I wish people would stop like loudly texting and shit during these things, like talking to each other during these, because you already have to make a choice. What are you going to engage with at the film fest? You cannot see everything. What are you going to see?
Yeah.
And you're expected to churn out an article about it immediately. You're expected to maintain enough of this film in your head to talk about it while being the first voice to talk about it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, but they
and you
just
have to
roll
watch
right
like
one into
17 of
another,
these
and you
things.
can't compose your thoughts on all of them that quickly. Luckily for us, everyone in the actual
It's
screening
very
room
difficult.
was extremely, extremely respectful. Everyone was really like kind of locked in,
Yes.
but the people in the hallway less so, and the doors were not very thick.
Yeah, because for this set, we were sitting against the back wall, and it's people would come in, they'd flash the flashlight directly in your face.
Yeah, that was
And
annoying.
then I made every single time I made a big show of covering my eyes, and they got like really embarrassed about it. And then they flashed me in the face again when they didn't see a seat immediately in their vicinity on their way back out.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, I'm
Like,
begging
come
you,
on. Just think for a
have some
second here.
decorum.
Or maybe
Hmm.
stand near the doorway
Flashlight at
until
the
you're
waist, pointing at the floor.
or like
Eyes
also you
adjust.
can just let your eyes adjust. Just give it a minute. It's not that hard to see actually if you just
Hmm.
be patient. Whatever though, whatever.
Yep.
All that to say,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, Watcher and the
What
Children of
I
Enoch, real good. Loved it.
we loved The Watcher.
Loved it.
Hmm.
So after that was Ivania, directed by
Ivania.
Ivania. Sorry,
And
yeah.
which,
What am
firstly,
I
I
saying
think
here? Directed by Luigi Abanto.
hmm this was great. Nathan
Yeah.
Sellers directed The Watcher, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Ivania was great to follow up The Watcher
I
with
loved
because
it.
The
Yeah.
Watcher was heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ivania was
It was like emotive. It was like
it was no spoken language. It
mhm.
was an emotive, image focused movie.
Yeah.
In more ways than one, right? And
It's
it
a haunted
like
camera movie.
thank you, thank you. It's
Another
a
for
haunted
Noah's
camera
list.
movie, and it rocked.
It was really good. I liked it a lot.
No, no, it's a different kind of haunted camera.
Yeah, I honestly I don't know that
I
I
don't
would
know.
refer
There's
to this one as horror actually, but I don't know where else I would put a haunted camera movie
no.
genre wise.
That's the issue, right? Like I think
I feel like there is a whole mess of like horror adjacent subgenres that are like not properly horror, but they're delving into different aspects of like the stories that might get told in other genres, or they're doing the kind of story that might get told in a
right.
horror movie, but not in a horror kind of way. And it's like, well, there's got to be somewhere else that you can put your haunted camera romance, but like where?
So I guess it's not even supposed to be haunted necessarily. It's that
Right.
when he takes pictures with his antique camera, he's seeing another dimension. And when she takes pictures with her same antique camera, sometimes she catches him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. It's kind of a fun little yearning film of two people who can never like ever meet
Yeah.
that seem to like kind of like each other.
I perceived it as being
I thought,
a time thing that they were separated by the time periods that they were each living in, not that they were in like parallel worlds, which apparently is more the intent than how I was reading it.
yeah, so in the summary it's a woman who lives in the same space and time as Miguel though in another dimension.
Yeah, which I mean, honestly, in terms of like the emotional weight that it carries, no difference for me, but
Mhm.
it's
It's still very good.
yeah, it feels like a really good study in like I don't know, longing and whatnot. There it definitely has this like not to sound too cis heterosexual about the fact that a man and a woman are both in this movie, but it definitely has this romantic kind of tone to it, right?
It does no, it's definitely a romantic yearning. It's very
Yeah.
neat.
It's very much
It's a
about the way
very
that they
cool
can't
little
have
thing.
each
They're
other. They aren't able to reach out in a
yeah.
direction for each other even. Like there's a sweetness and there's
And
a
it's because
sadness.
they are so interested and connected with each other because they're like, who is this
Yeah.
person that shows up sometimes in my photos? This is so neat. This is a cool little thing. And they live their entire lives just being like, I wonder who the person in the camera is.
Mhm.
And it's really kind of touching.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, while I liked Remnants, oh that's right. While I liked all these things,
Mm.
Passengers,
Passengers.
which is
This
the
is
next
the
short,
Turkish one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Passengers head and shoulders, and I'm saying this with my full chest here.
Mm.
Passengers is the best short I watched this entire weekend.
Now, just real quick before we start
Like,
talking about Passengers, though, just as a last thing to say
mhm.
about Ivania, it looks fucking fantastic, and all the
Oh yeah,
like actual photographs
it
that are
does.
taken in it. You get like the developing the photos montage, which I love always. But like the photos themselves are like really like well framed and lit and everything. Like everything in this thing just looks so fucking
Yeah.
good. Oh, and then that leads us right into Passengers really well because speaking of shit that looks good, hot damn.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
So firstly, Passengers is dialed the fuck in
Yeah.
black and white.
Mm,
Like it is
sharp.
crystal
Yeah.
clear, sharp contrast, clean visibility,
Strong
black and
shadows
white.
and stuff. Like,
Oh,
oh.
it's all the stuff you want to see in a black and white film.
Mm-hmm. Very, not. You were talking about stuff looking sort of 1950s style. This very much has the feel of the way that a lot of black and white movies, when things were shot before color, you think differently when you know you're shooting in black and white, right? You
Yeah,
utilize your backgrounds and everything a little bit differently, and it's not veering all the way into like old-timey German expressionism or anything like that, right? But it's
right.
definitely playing around with shadows in the background in a similar kind of way, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Have a sec. I want to listen to how to say this guy's name.
Yeah.
Bur Buramet Arkelar. Alkelar.
Alkealar?
Buramart Arkelar. I'll leave this in, I suppose, because I'm not going to get a better take on this. Nor am I trying because it's not going to come through. I apologize, sir. This rocked though. I really, 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 really like it. The journey through this short comes together really, really well because as the short's going on, multiple people keep making some type of comment about how, well, you better hurry up. We can't stick around here. The people don't want to stick around here that long. You can't
Everyone's
stick
looking
around
for
here too
somebody,
long.
everyone's waiting for
Everyone.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. But then
And they're at a
it's
train station, which is key.
and they're at a train station. Yeah, and everyone's like, "Where's my mom? Oh, where's my wife?
Where are
Where's
my
my friend?"
kids?
Everyone's there.
Yeah.
Everyone here is looking for someone, and this one guy goes to go find the person he's looking for. He finds her at a club and she's like, "Oh, we can go. I just want to wait for my dinner." And he's just like, "No,
We have
we
to
can't
go.
wait." And you realize as this short is going on where everyone is.
Mhm.
You realize what is happening with everyone. And as you realize, as the audience is let in on this knowledge, you simultaneously have more visible clues as to what's going on as well. And as everything comes together toward the end, it's the world crashes all in together, the realizations all come down to a point, and it finishes. And it's really, really good.
Great atmosphere throughout.
Oh yeah. I think this is the perfect example because some of these shorts, a lot of the shorts that we've watched are things that I could see extended to something longer.
Absolutely.
Something that I'm like, I would love to see more of The Watcher,
Yeah, even if
I
it doesn't have any actual development on the story, if it just takes more time to be atmospheric about it, I would fucking love that.
Mhm. But like Passengers, I don't want them to give me a single ounce more than I got. I think
Yeah.
even a second more could ruin the really delicate balance of what's going on here.
I would
Um,
really, really love to see something full length from this director, though, because
oh, very much
can you
so. Yeah.
imagine? Whew.
I don't believe he's put out anything yet.
A person to
I
keep
mean,
an
like
eye
that
out
being
for,
said,
though.
he's got a lot of stuff, but none of them are more than short films at the moment.
Hmm.
So I will very, very excitedly check out anything that this guy ends up making in the future. Also, I have the honor of being one of the popular reviews on the Letterboxd page with a like from the director.
Nice.
Yeah. Not to brag, but
You
I'm
too
bragging.
can get in good with movie directors by simply trying to catch them as early on in their career as possible.
And that's, oh my god, what a perfect time to talk about The Child.
This is a good time
Speaking
to
of
talk about The
getting in with
Child.
directors.
There are a couple others that are perhaps. Oh no, there is literally one other that I would like to mention, and that's The Bloody Family, which
Yes,
is
okay.
directed by Amir Karami
I
from Iran. guessing on the
Mm-hmm.
pronunciation there. I may be entirely wrong. I'm not super familiar with Persian names for the most part. Unfortunately, I should fix that. What am I talking about? Anyways, it's a story about a like social worker visiting this family that has some kind of like sort of ill-defined problem going on, and just kind of learning gradually everything that's going on weird with them. And I really liked it. I thought the atmosphere and the telling of it was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of imagery used during the telling of it that's not like directly representing what's being told, but like is telling you what an awful lot of the tone of it ought to be like perceived as. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good. Would watch more from that director as well. But that takes us now to The Child. Yeah. Now you had met the
Yeah. So
director of this one, right?
yeah, I met Narum and Beckham Van Bush.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they were somebody else when I went up to them. I thought they were connected to vampire zombies from space. I'm like,
Oh.
"Hey, you guys are with them, right?" And the guy was like, "No, but I know he's here. I know he's around somewhere. Do you want me to help you find him?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want to put you out." And he's like, "Yeah, I had a different because I said I heard you saying that your film had played. I wasn't sure which one." And he's like, "Oh no, it was The Child."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Oh, I just got out of watching that. I literally just left. I really liked it
It was
because
good.
I'm sitting here, I'm watching it, and I'm like, I really feel like this is suffering from the
They were
projector.
getting
I
absolutely
feel
fucked by
that
that
this is a
projector.
movie, yeah, which certain other movies displayed okay. I'm wondering if it was just a situation of a combination of the projector getting a little dim
Mm-hmm.
combined with maybe their video just had to be brighter for specifically for like screening
Yeah.
like that. I don't really know. Doesn't matter to me. It was a great time and I got to run into these guys and we ended up running into each other 4 more times throughout the day. And we just each time we chatted cuz it started with us just talking about it. And he's like it's fun because women and men get two different messages from the movie. Women with a maternal instinct say, of course, she has to protect her child. It is her
Mm-hmm.
child. And men are like, she's being manipulated by a monster and she's in the wrong. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, and Beckham was very clear that neither of those are like 100% correct
I
answers.
didn't think it would be
And
that
he
simple.
really enjoys, and he really, really enjoys that that is like the split conclusion though because those are both things that they wanted to allude to.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun practical effects monster baby in this, by the way. But I
Yeah.
ran into the guy 4 times, right? And each time he's like, "Did you see the vampire zombie guy yet?" And I'm like, "Oh no, but don't worry about it." And he's like, "Oh, we just finished the podcast interview and I have another podcast interview to do."
Ah.
Oh, we just like the poor man was getting moved from spot to spot to spot to spot, getting asked what was going on and how he was doing and what they were up to. Uh, Great stuff. He wanted to make it clear to me that in the interviews they were doing, he did not say that he was disappointed with how the projector worked because he's like, that's not what these interviews are for.
Yeah.
But he wanted me to know that the movie looks better than that. He gave me a link to Vimeo with the password so I can actually watch it in its properly lit
Oh,
glory.
fantastic.
So one of these days, we'll all get together. We can watch this
Yeah,
one
I want to
again.
see that because like the whole time watching it, it's like you could tell that in a different format you'd actually be able to see everything better because like what you could see was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my
He
god.
was very disappointed because he said, I have a lot of faith in my actors,
Mm.
and I was really trying to allow them to lead their performances without getting in their way.
Okay.
And one of the main ways he's talking about doing that is the fact that they're doing a lot of face acting. The guy
Mm-hmm.
in it played a character from In Bruges,
Oh, really?
Yuri. I don't know who Yuri is by name,
The
but I figured you might.
I think, hold on a second. I think I do, because I have seen that movie more times than I should, considering that I don't actually even like most of it. The parts that I like, I really, really like, but so much of it is just kind of Colin Farrell wandering around and saying things, you know?
I could watch an hour of that.
You also get Brendan Gleeson and Ray Fiennes, so, like, it's worth watching. Oh yeah, he's the guy who like sells him the gun and stuff. He's one of the funnier parts of the movie because the whole time that he's like illegally selling him a gun, he's like asking him questions about the English words that he's using and whether he's using them correctly. But
Amazing.
he's using these words to try and suggest a place in which to kill a guy. And he's just like, I don't know, you have this word, alcoves? Brendan Gleeson is just like, yeah, alcoves. It's like nooks and crannies. And the guy's like, oh, nooks and crannies. That's a great phrase. Like,
Well, he also kills in the child.
he also kills in the
Definitely.
child.
He also dies in the child. I recommend checking it out, though. Honestly,
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
They are also doing the circuit right now.
Hell yeah.
We just released this film recently. Let's make people watch it, and it is doing pretty well everywhere it's going. From what I'm seeing, I don't know. I have hopes for these guys because I personally connected with them and I liked them.
Yeah, their work is good. I
Um,
hope they're going places.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I hope these guys actually get some more stuff going. But after this, we're into the awards block. Were you here for any of the award
I
block?
was here for the first one in the award block, and also you are skipping over something actually that I caught that you didn't.
Oh yeah, I am.
It's a documentary about Phantom Lights, which I really, really enjoyed about the first half of.
Hmm.
Because initially the first half of it is kind of all focused on it's very much more like traditional documentary. It's about the history of phantom lights as a phenomenon, the way that they present a little bit differently and have different folklore explanations in different regions. Very cool and stuff. But then they like went to this place where they were known to happen and they were like trying to capture them and stuff, and it kind of just turned into your average like ghost slash Bigfoot hunting kind of scenario from there. Which a bunch of a bunch of the people that they interviewed for it and stuff and worked with were actually people who had encountered not ghosts, sorry, phantom lights as Bigfoot hunters while they were out doing a Bigfoot hunt. So like naturally you're getting a bunch of overlap in the presentation stuff, but that's like a format that kind of doesn't do so much for me. The informative parts of it were very cool and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And then we hit the awards block.
hit the awards block. In between, when I skipped the Phantom Lights movie, I ate a bunch of empanadas,
I wish that I
which
had
was
been eating a bunch of empanadas whilst watching the Phantom Lights thing because I was really hungry by the end of it, but
yeah. I realized right before the Phantom Lights thing that I hadn't eaten anything really except for coffee. So I'm like, oh, I need food.
that's not going to help you
So we took
focus
a
on
walk around the
movies.
block waiting for the empanada truck to open, and then I had beef, spinach Asiago, or a spinach, not Asiago, spinach, artichoke, and
Classic
Chipotle chicken.
combination.
All great. But we're in the awards block, and Nina was here for the awards block.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't.
No, Nina was not here for the awards
I went
block.
home.
Yeah.
I went home after work. I did not come until
Yeah,
7.
Tales
our
from the
mom
Hood.
was there, and I was there for the literally just the first short in the awards block.
All right. So I'm gonna preempt this. All of them were good.
They're the ones that
All
won
of them were
awards. Of
pretty
course,
good.
they're gonna be good, right?
How'd you feel about Wake?
I enjoyed it. It felt kind of like Autopsy of Jane Doe-ish, but going
Yeah.
about it in a more maybe emotionally compelling direction rather than doing the procedural thing.
Because the procedural element of Autopsy of Jane Doe, I enjoy. I like how contained it is, and how the supernatural is very, very present and distinct, but like it's still contained to the world.
Yeah.
And Wake let itself loose a little bit different in a way that I
Yeah.
really enjoy.
Yeah, it used its limits in a very different kind of way, and it really worked for me, I think.
Did you not catch We Joined a Cult?
I did not catch We Joined a Call. I believe it was
Oh,
just
man.
starting as I headed out.
That's a bummer because it was really funny.
I was hearing dialogue as I got to the door, and I was like, "Oh man, this is funny, and I'm gonna be missing it." And
It was pretty great, and the reason it was pretty great was because the whole concept is guy who wants to play kickball is like out with his friend trying to play kickball, and the only guy they find is this weirdo cultist who's like, step in that, and it's a pentagram, and they're like, no, we don't think we will, and he's like, sign up for the cult, and they're like, no, we just kind of want to play kickball here, and then the one guy signs up because he's like, I just want to play some kickball, man. This will do it. And he's like, well, you just signed up. You got to sign someone else up. And he's like, oh, dude, I gotta sign someone up. Can you sign up? And he's like, no, I'm not signing up for your cult. What do you mean? We were just gonna play it. You know, demons appear and they have a great old time. He gets his friend back by because the whole thing was kickball and nachos, and that's all that we want to do.
Right.
And he points out one of the other cultists, and he's like, that guy hates nachos. So his friend in the cult kills that guy, and they use his head for kickball.
Fantastic.
Let's see. Scratch was a blast.
Yeah.
I had a very good time with Scratch. It was a coming-of-age werewolf story, which I think
Classic format.
always works. You know? It's very difficult to mess up a coming-of-age werewolf story. Mm-hmm. That was a winner for Best Sound. Wake got Best Cinematography. We Joined a Cult, Best Editing. Best Sound was for Scratch.
Wake definitely looked good enough to win an award, I say. Yeah, it was a very, very good-looking movie.
It was a movie that lived in inky blackness, and to make that work and not just look murky and gross does take a very intentional hand about it, and I think they nailed it. Yeah,
they did a really good job showing like the contrast in lighting from using a flashlight in a dark room and stuff like that. Just really, really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Captured the atmosphere really, really well for what they were doing specifically.
Juggernaut was also fun. That won Best Costume. And that was very Green Knight adjacent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like not like straight up or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's somebody on like a big journey as a knight. And it was kind of cool.
Neat.
The costume, it, you know, justifiable. Costume looked great. Really, really liked it. I don't know. Lebet was good. It was a full movie made of recycled puppets.
Oh, okay.
Stop motion animation.
Cool.
And everything in it was recycled from other products and projects and stuff. So that was really cool. Or maybe not everything, but a majority of it was, which was really cool. It's all in black and white up until the end where color ends up springing out from everything, and it's kind of cool.
That's neat.
But I mostly want to talk about the Redstone.
The Redstone.
And then Nina gets to come back for Tales from the Hood.
Okay.
Redstone, Nina keeps taking this from me and then not giving it back. Jamie Yasso from Mexico, winner of Best of Fest. It is, let's see, in 1909, archaeologist returns to investigate pre-Hispanic findings sent for the Independence Day anniversary. Explore a monumental house in search of answers when it becomes nightmare. It is a good time. You get the idea that this lady and her husband maybe are kind of like exploiting the situation and like the people that they are representing. At least that's kind of what I got from it. They get sent a bunch of like stuff to verify its authenticity, to verify like what exactly is kind of going on with it, and to see whether it's going to be good for a display for the Independence Day. And they are sent this box that's all like warded up and sealed shut with like, holy shit. And she opens it up to see what's inside and lets out this awesome floating 6-armed skeleton.
Ooh.
It's huge with a big long neck. It's got lots of arms.
Cool.
And it floats through the area and it looks really good. And I liked it a lot.
All right.
Redstone. Definitely check that one out if you're able to. Honestly, most of the shit that we talked about, right? Like,
yeah, if we've taken some time to talk about it, it is worth watching.
Also, none of these are longer than 30 minutes long. None of them. Passengers, I think, is like 13 minutes long, you know?
Yeah, they're short.
If you can find these, they're worth checking out. If you came here from the podcast episode where I said, yeah, I watched 40 movies at Eerie Horror Fest, this is why most of them were like short films, right? Which I'm just going to put this out there. Some people, haters and phonies primarily,
of course,
are telling me that short films shouldn't count toward my 400 films in a year goal. To which I can say, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, make your own list.
Make your own list. Watch 200 movies this year. You're not. So get dunked on.
You can't even keep up with me normally.
Exactly. Like, if we take out these 30, I'm still smoking you. So, nah, get fucked. It counts. These are all thought out, intentional, artistic visions.
They are.
That just are working within the confines And that's something before we touch into Tales from the Hood, and Nina can now weigh in because now we're talking about the concept of art,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
Something that I really like about short films is, yes, all short films can tend to feel like short films,
Sure.
for better or worse. This is a element of the medium,
That can be a good thing for
but
some stories, though. I've definitely
it
watched
can be a
full
good thing
length
for some,
movies and thought to myself, this would be better as just kind of a longer short.
right?
100%.
This would have been better if instead of being an hour and 20 minutes long, if they had allowed this Friday the 13th to be 45 minutes like all their real footage has.
Yeah, and this is where you would kind of expect that something like Never Hike Alone would end up being the best possible Friday the 13th movie, right? But then it misses out on a
Mhm.
lot of what makes a Friday the 13th movie what it is, and that's unfortunately
Yep.
bullshit. This is
Yeah,
where Friday
right?
the 13th, 2009 really knocks it out of the park. There is so much bullshit in there.
I'm so glad to be vindicated in my, like, kind of enjoyment of Friday 2009,
Mhm.
because it's not great,
No,
but it's
no, but
actually
it's what it
way
should be.
better than the Nightmare one. It's
Yes.
better than Nightmare, and it's better than Texas Chainsaw.
It's most definitely better
Of
than
the
Texas
3
Chainsaw.
reboots.
Like, debatably, it does its job better than Halloween 2018, but I'm not willing to
Right?
defend that.
Right? It's not a debate I'm willing to log into.
No, it's not worth
It's a
it, but
debate that I'm willing to entertain, but not here.
exactly.
But what I love about these is all of these were shorts put forward. Like, I don't even think we talked about this one, but it's called Grand Theft Demon. It was 1 minute long, and it was a goofy little short
Short
about
as
a
hell.
guy whose car gets stolen, and then he gets picked up by an Uber, and there's a demon in it that had stolen his car. The demon is driving his Uber car.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like, it's a 2D animated, like, spiky tornado head kind of looking
Oh,
face. You know what
sure.
I mean?
Okay.
Like scribble. It's just a little scribble guy going, "Rah!" And that's
You
the
know
whole
what?
short.
Good.
You know?
Good.
And that's, there's some stuff like that it really, like, yeah, that sure is a 1 minute short.
Yeah, there's a flavor
You
of
know?
like low effort execution that just really hits sometimes, right? Like
Yeah. And cuz
sometimes it works. It's the way it ought to be.
it worked. It was kind of fun. I enjoyed it. But that's one of the things I really liked about all of these. Because with the exception of Noonday Demon, I don't think, like, while I simultaneously feel that it's a little tacky to give short films ratings in certain situations because, well, they're short, blah 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 blah. It's the I'm still doing it.
Mhm.
I don't think I gave anything less than a 3 with the exception of Noonday Demon, and that's because it rubbed me the wrong way because I'm pretty sure it's using AI, right? But like, all of these were really pretty solid. They were really pretty good. God, I Love Passengers, a story that can be told in a bigger way, but it's not open-ended anymore. You have a more definitive answer to the end of things. You have to expand. No, this is a short that works because it's short.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
Evania, a short that works. If it was
I don't want that
longer,
thing to be long.
exactly, longer, it gets more explicit about what its themes and intentions are,
Sure.
and the beauty of it being open to interpretation. What are these guys up to? Is not there anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Now, that said, much like The Watcher and
The-
the Children of Enoch, I would be willing to watch
Mhm.
a version of that that is not full length necessarily, but like a bit longer just for the sake of being more atmospheric about everything that it's doing, just to live in it for a little bit longer. I would accept that.
Evania?
Yeah.
I don't think I want that.
I would sit
I
in it
think-
for maybe 5 to 10 minutes longer than it is.
Not me,
Tops. That
personally,
is the
but
longest that
I
I
get
would
it.
want. I liked looking at it and listening to it, and I wouldn't mind doing that for a little bit longer, but I desperately do not want more story from it because it's perfect already.
Yeah, I don't think I wanted to watch the man putter around the house any more than I already had, and I liked not having as much time with her.
But you don't like
just enough to, like,
you don't like watching a man stare at photos that he's developing, mad with longing? You're not into that?
no,
Okay.
no,
Well-
no.
All right.
I think it wrapped properly.
It did. Absolutely.
F6. Sorry, I got a text from the moth. And I don't. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this, though, was getting to really log into, like, short film mode and enjoy just, like, seeing the small, I can't make these bigger visions, and then other things like Semper Avanti or even The Watcher, which could be like, Semper Avanti felt like a proof of concept.
Right.
In a good way, not in a I feel ripped off. It is good short and is good if that's all that I ever get.
Right.
But I also would be happy to see more. and the watcher, if that was a full film, I also would enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be happy with any of that type of shit. But it's just watching people work within limitations is always fun, just to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah, limitations are such a concept of art talk now. I really feel like having some limitations like that is it's been talked about a lot, but it's still a significantly underrated part of your creative process, right? Is knowing what you have to stay within. And
Nina and I were actually just talking about that for the website and the terms of like when does a review stop being a review and turn into an essay?
right.
You know? Because I'm really excited for like Emma's Saw the TV Glow
Yeah,
thing. But
that shit's
if
gonna
it's
be
already
long.
6
It's not a
pages of
review.
notes,
It's like
10 pages,
yeah.
exactly. That's going to be an essay.
Mhm.
You know, we'll put it in the article section. Emma gets to have the first article, probably. Congratulations, Emma.
Yeah.
But it's just cool to, you know, the difference between forced limitations and chosen limitations and things like that. It's just fun stuff. I enjoy, you know. But we're here also now. We're here for Tales from the Hood.
We are here for Tales
with
from
live
the Hood,
Q&A.
a movie that I still have not seen.
I
It's
tell you,
really good.
I am missing out.
It
I know
is-
this.
devastatingly timeless in the worst of ways.
Yeah.
This is-
yeah.
Trying to talk to my mom about this movie was a pain in the ass, and I don't know why I even bothered. If you're
bet.
listening
Jesus.
if my sisters are listening to me right now, I'm not gonna apologize. Like, you know how it is sometimes. Specifically with this, it was really frustrating because there are certain things you cannot deny about current era politics. And those are the way that Donald Trump looks and the words that are coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And both of these things in this movie from 1995 are parodied because they're parodying, I think, David Duke.
Yeah.
I mean,
the guy's name is Duke, so
also, if it bears a resemblance to Donald Trump, that may be intentional by itself as well, because he's been known as just a massive scale jackass for his entire life.
Not in
No,
this
this is a
case.
dialed
This is a
in-
politician.
yeah.
Oh, right, which he
saying
was not at the
things-
time. Yeah.
Yeah, this
No.
is modern Trump.
This is a modern Trump parody that is from 1995. He gets up, he has a black PR person who is coaching him on how to talk his way out of the fact that he's living in a plantation house on purpose. It's great. And in the Q&A afterwards, Rusty was saying that that when Donald Trump was elected, in the short, there is a haunted painting, and people were posting pictures of the painting to Twitter being like, someone get this in the White House. So I tell my mom this, and my mom
Oh no.
non-reaction, and it's like, Heidi, I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying that the movie from 1995 unfortunately had a very prescient prediction about the type of politician that would still be prevalent. But that's, I think, the thing with this whole movie is, and this is why, you know, it's not even really worth talking about, because the movie itself is I would say the most political, like outwardly political horror movie I've watched.
And by design.
By design.
More than the
He
Purge
talked
movies?
about-
Yes.
Yeah. The Purge movies feel politically incidental half the time.
Well,
you know,
they feel like they don't-
they-
the first one does. I really
Well-
feel like the second and third really.
right, but you know, they wear what
fourth.
they're saying on their sleeve, but it doesn't always feel like they know what they're saying.
There we go. Yeah.
They're like, wouldn't it be crazy if
They're still trying to be
versus
marketable. Yeah.
every short in Tales from the Hood is very, very much like police brutality sucks. Abuse in the home sucks. Gang violence sucks. White politicians suck. And they are
Yeah.
to the point, brutal. They pull no punches. There was only one that I felt personally was kind of outdated. I don't even want to say misguided. I think that we have just grown as a culture in the discussion of gang violence and systemic racism, where the conversation of black on black violence, they put a young black man who was in a gang in a cell next to a white supremacist, and the conversation turns into, these are very similar. This is the same thing. You are being in a gang is doing as much damage to your community as these white supremacists are, which is a conversation to be had. But I think that the awareness of why people end up in gangs has kind of evolved since 95. That's
Mm.
definitely the one thing that I would say has evolved since then, that the movie, because of that, that's the one thing that feels dated.
Yeah, in the 90s, the attitude was very much people join gangs because they're evil, right? Yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah, because yeah, exactly. Functionally. So, other than that, so again, it's almost not even worth talking about because he knows he's saying it. He wants to say it. The studio let him say it because as we found out in the Q&A, Spike Lee would call up the studio every time the studio told him to change something, and Spike Lee would call up the studio and be like, "No, he's not changing that," and then he wouldn't change it.
Nice. Love that.
So, yeah, the movie itself is great. The interview, I will just tell the highlights. There were some things that I felt like the interviewer, who is a sociology professor,
Mhm.
and she is very knowledgeable, but I think that because the movie is so on the nose political, there's only so much you can say about the politics that the movie hasn't already said. And I think that she spent a little more time than I would have liked focusing on some stuff that was just repeating what the movie was saying. And then furthermore, she hooked on to something about power dynamics. And it was clear through Rusty's answers that he hadn't really thought of it that way and did not consider what she had picked up on to be intentional. So whenever she would come back to it, he'd be like, I don't know, and kind of move on, which was a little awkward. But he did have, I took notes because the stuff that he said overall, there was some really interesting things. One thing he said that Noah quoted in his Letterboxd review was they were talking about art having a message, and Rusty said, "If I know my art is going to be saying something, I need to figure out what the fuck I want it to say." So, which I fully agree with, and I think obviously with Tales from the Hood, he did great. He talked about you know, how he's a businessman and an artist very much. He talks about it in a way that's very he's very aware of the limitations that working with a studio puts on you, and considers himself lucky that he had like Spike to back him up. But he was talking about, he compared working for Netflix to working with the mob.
Oof.
He says the studios will try to limit you. You have like this really creative idea, and then the studios will say stuff like, "People don't like mimes," and then he added, "And that's true."
It's really funny because he's like, it's one of those things where, and this is gonna sound mean, and it is, but sometimes creatives need told no.
Sure.
Sometimes it's good to have someone tell you what to do. Now, if what you're telling someone to do is based on the algorithm told us, this isn't going to track well, shut the fuck up. But other times people need reined in and told, people don't like mimes.
Right.
You know?
People do not like mimes. I don't think they ever have.
The only time you ever see mimes these days is making fun of how no one likes them.
No respect
another
for
thing
the
that
mime
Rusty
community
said
anywhere, honestly.
Rusty said that the business itself of like movie production and whatnot, and just entertainment in general, is not made with the artists in mind, regardless of whether or not they are a marginalized group or not. This is a conversation that he was saying. He says it's about the audience you are presenting this to, and whether or not that audience is going to make the studio money. And his take was that he was specifically, I think he mentioned trans people specifically, LGBT people.
He did, yeah.
Was that the audience of trans people and people that will go see a trans narrative is too small for the studios to think that it will make money. And he's like, I don't think that it is. It's that systemic thing again, right? He basically said, I don't think it's that the studios hate trans people.
No, they don't
I think
care.
it's that they don't care, and trans people aren't going to make them money.
Right. Yeah.
Which you see with I Saw the TV Glow, because half the people that saw it are not trans and didn't get it, and were a pain in the ass to everyone else involved. What else? I really liked that he said that.
Yeah.
I appreciated that a lot. He talked about the conversations that were happening at the time of release with this movie and its politics. He said that one of the things that he's like, different people enjoyed different ones for different reasons. And he said that like by the time that you got to the end, he's like, obviously white people like the last short, which is about black on black violence. And he's like, but a lot of people, he said, a lot of white men were really angry at the first one, which is about police brutality.
Mm.
And he was saying, I don't think white men saw themselves in the cops, but I think they felt a connection. And I think what they thought I was claiming was that they were seeing themselves there.
Ooh,
So
okay, yeah.
That's a line I liked a lot. He's like, I wasn't saying that was them, but I think they thought I was saying that was them.
Because they felt a connection, yeah.
That is such an interesting and, like, damning detail to have in there, right? For it to be that, like, even when a white person is not directly identifying with the cop, they are still identifying the cop as a representation of themselves somehow. Like, that's... Oh, doesn't that make you realize things about yourself when you get mad about it? Like...
It's a really, like, I appreciated a lot of the things he said about creativity and character work. He said something about how giving a character flaws is important because when it comes down to defining what a character's actions are going to be, their flaws are going to motivate those actions more than their virtues.
Yeah. What kind of mistakes do they make? That's so much more interesting in storytelling than having them do shit right all the time. God.
I saw someone on Tumblr talking. This is like a friend of a friend situation, right? I saw someone on Tumblr talking about how they saw someone in the comments of a book review, saying that they keep track of how many mistakes the protagonist makes, and by the time they make 3, they put the book down and never pick it up again.
I saw that.
What an inane thing.
For me, it just kind of blended into the amount of talk that I see from people in various corners of the internet all the time, being frustrated about main characters in stories making stupid decisions. And every time it comes up, I'm just like, come on, have you never made a mistake in your life? Come on.
Well, yeah, I haven't, but like, other people.
Do you really want stories full of perfect characters who never fuck anything up? Because those stories are short and they're fucking boring. Come on.
It's funny because when you say that, people will say that they do want that until they experience it, and then they'll find a different reason to say that there was an issue with the story.
At a certain point, it feels to me like it ends up being adjacent to the my only 2 interests are children's cartoons and deep political theory kind of, like, discourse. Like, if you see that kind of shit. It feels adjacent to that to me at a certain point, where it's just like, you need to grow up, is what you need to do.
Yeah. Okay, last thing for my notes is two things, actually. So firstly, he was talking about making movies and writing and such, and he was talking about how sometimes it's really trial and error, and you just start and you don't stop when you're creating. And he said, and sometimes it's like, gee, I hope the creative process that I am doing right now works, because if it doesn't, it's certainly taken up a lot of my time.
Oof, I feel that. Oh.
Yeah. I was like, damn, that is God's hugest mood. And you can tell yourself that you're learning from your mistakes as much as you want, but okay, and the last thing was he was given time to be asked a couple questions at the end. One person asked him how he felt about elevated horror, and his answer basically boiled down to, I think people will try to... horror has always been saying things, and the label is like kind of retroactively being applied to stuff that was always saying stuff. And then he said, I don't know if Ari Aster counts as elevated horror, but I like it a lot.
Such a goofy ass line, by the way. Like the
poster
name
boy of elevated
horror.
horror as a concept.
Yeah.
Like...
Oh, it was so great. When he said that, I'm starting to crack up.
I was standing at the microphone to ask my question, so I had to be so serious. I asked him what his favorite effect was from the movie, and I got a rundown of how there's a couple effects. There's some stop motion that's really cool, and he's like, that's what everyone notices. But there was an effect where someone becomes a graffiti painting, and he was talking about how they made this like sculpture out of this material that would melt at a certain temperature, and then they melted it and reversed the footage and stuff to get it to do what they wanted it to do.
Classic method.
And he was like, yeah, basically one person took over on that effect and made it happen, and he was really excited about that.
Nice.
So very cool.
I love shit getting melted and then played backwards. Resurrection scene in Hellraiser.
I was
Oh,
gonna say
yeah.
Hellraiser too.
Yeah.
But that was
Actually, Nina, it was Hellraiser 1, a guy who's misinterpreting on purpose.
oh hardy fucking har. Yeah. Anyway, Rusty Cundiff was great. Movie was great. Highly would recommend it. Yeah. That's really it for that. It was really nice to get to hear this. It's clear that he has grown as a person in the past 30 years in a way that has made his take on his old work and on the way that like being a creator in modern spaces and the way that that's changed. But it was really nice to see someone who has made things and is clearly a very like talented and skilled person say things that I hugely agreed with and related to. So that was really encouraging, and he's really cool to hear from. So I'm glad that we got him this year.
Nice.
Really cool guy.
Yeah, and with that, after that, we left the theater. We met vampire zombies from space.
And then went home.
And then we went home.
I was really sad. I would have loved to stick around for the rest of the shorts because there's some good shorts that were coming up from everything I was hearing. They had a midnight showing of Lisa Frankenstein, but I am aware of who I am and that I was not going to make it through another 4 hours of film.
Yeah.
So
you got to know your limits.
yeah. Also, frankly, I just wasn't feeling like I wanted to watch the Heavy with Grief block.
Perhaps not.
Just didn't seem like it was going to click with me.
Perhaps not, for some unknowable reason.
Who could ever know? But that was the 2024 Eerie Horror Fest.
Hell yeah.
That was our experience with it, generally speaking.
Yeah, very fun.
Cool shit.
Very excited for next year. Next year, gonna try and ask for more time off so I can catch some of the shorts as well.
Yeah, next year
Be
I'm
worth
gonna
it.
make sure to ask off for the entire time as well. Pretty stoked. I think they already have. Yeah, it's gonna be another 2-day, which is very nice for me because it's a lot easier for me to get a 2-day set off than it is to get a 3-day weekend. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah, especially when one of those days is not like a solid weekend day. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
great times. Thank you guys for hanging out with us again.
And thank you, Eerie Horror Fest, for happening. Looking forward to coming back again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool event.
But yeah, I've been Noah. With me, Nina and Jade. All our socials and stuff are in the description for this one.
Yeah, it's a bonus
See
episode.
ya.
We're not saying that shit out loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, fuck it.
Shut
And we'll
up.
see you next time for The Thing.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You said for the thing, and I'm like, Nina, you could just say what we're doing next.
I did.